Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Player Zone YouTube channel and welcome to match week 2 predictions for the Premier League. I'll tell you what, the first week didn't go so well. We'll get into my point system in a little bit. I went ballsy, I did a few really rogue predictions and in the end didn't come out so well. So looking for a bounce back week this weekend with the Premier League action. We start with a massive one, Man United and Brighton. We finish off with Arnie Slot's first game at Anfield as Liverpool host Brentford. We've got Aston and Aston Villa in between that as well, Chelsea and Wolves. Interesting games throughout the weekend. It's the Premier League, there's always intriguing games from top to bottom. But I hinted at it, the points last week wasn't that great. Only 5 points that I managed last weekend. And if you're new to the channel and you're wondering how the point system worked, there's 3 points for the correct scoreline predicted, 1 point for the correct result predicted, and obviously 0 points for neither. So only managed the 5 correct results, no perfect scorelines, and really struggled throughout there with a few missing out on a few draws and all in all, probably not being smart enough. I've been ballsy once again this week though, so it could go well. It could end up landing flat on its face yet again. And just for those who missed the first week's predictions, I'm aiming for 250 plus points this season because we fell just short of that number last year. With that being said, ladies and gents, let's get straight now into our match week 2 Premier League predictions. The weekend kicks off with a very exciting affair. It's Manchester United travelling to Brighton. Sebastian Hurtzler's side in the first game was probably the most impressive side in the Premier League. I didn't give a chance to win away at Everton. I thought it would take time for Hurtzler to implement his system at Brighton and Hove Albion, but they were fantastic. Everton were poor, but Brighton on the counter-attack and playing with pace once again. It felt like a new start. It felt like a start that was needed. We've got Yakuba Minter running at defenders, Karim Matoma looking at his pre-injury best, Danny Welbeck scoring goals as well. A shout out to Mats Wiffer in midfield as well. He was fantastic controlling the game. And once again, you'd give him a hot chance here at home, first game in front of that home crowd, and take on the Manchester United side that across last season didn't travel so well. So a real opportunity here for Brighton, but you'd think they have to start with a lot of pace and get at Manchester United. A team looked really solid at the back in match week 1. Didn't give up too many opportunities. A few in the counter-attack that was shut down or full of misplaced passes, but all in all, didn't concede many big chances. So Brighton will have to be clinical in front of goal. You look at João Pedro's, you look at Yakuba Minters, you look at Karim Matoma and Danny Welbeck. If you get a chance, you've got to take it. You saw Fulham not do that against Manchester United and they paid the price. So for Brighton, it's play with that same freedom, play with that same attacking identity, and make sure you take your opportunities when they get given to you. Because this Manchester United side, as I said, is giving that vibe of the first season of Erik ten Hag. Really solid at the back, not conceding many opportunities. Matthias de Ligt alongside Lissandro Martinez looks like the punch that they should be going with for match week 2 here. Nacer Mazraoui was fantastic in match week 1. I think him and Diogo Dalot hold the key for Manchester United in this game here. Yakuba Minter and Karim Matoma, as I said, were the best players for Brighton last weekend. They were reigning defenders, playing with pace and playing with energy. And I feel like for Manchester United to get a big result in this game on the road, those two fullbacks have to first defend and deny Brighton space in wide areas and chances into wide areas, but secondly, go forward and create chances of your own. United looked best when they won the ball in deep areas and got moving either on the counter-attack or spraying the ball and using the width. And I feel like Nacer Mazraoui did a fantastic job of that, especially playing out from the back. Diogo Dalot sort of forced into the wrong side at times, playing left back. Didn't do as well, but we saw last season what he can bring to Manchester United, bringing that ball forward. So I feel like those two hold the key for Manchester United. And also, I want to see Amad Diallo and Alejandro Garnacho start. One of them can just sacrifice himself and play on the left. And I feel like Joshua Zirkzee has to start this game here. Came on and scored the winner for Manchester United. And the side looks so much better with a number 9 there, or whatever he calls himself, a 9.5. With Mason Mount there, it's not good enough. You lose Bruno's ability on the ball and to create from deep areas, and Mason Mount isn't the same player that he was 2 to 3 seasons ago. So for Manchester United, if you make those few changes, if the fullbacks are at their best, I see United getting on top here. And I think Erik ten Hag, it's a season for him, it's a season for Manchester United to really improve, and I feel like they get a massive result here on the road. I'm going with a 3-1 Manchester United win. I think they get the job done. Defensively really solid, and then over time this Brighton defence will eventually wear down and United bag a few goals in this one on the road. We go to London next, and there's Tottenham Hotspur and Everton. Two teams who are disappointing in different measures and different manners. Starting with Tottenham, probably the 9.9 type performance. Really good throughout this game. Had key spells where they were dominating the game, dominating the ball. But it was just that clinical edge in that final third there to get the job done versus Leicester. Disappointing 1-1 draw, and really unfortunate for Ange Postecoglou's side, who you thought they needed that win to get the season kicked off, get in the right matter and continue on that wavelength for the rest of the year. You know how they started the season last year, winning a lot of games, being on top of the league. It was a good vibe there and it continued on, but it just feels like it stagnated from that result on Monday night there. I love the front three though. Brennan Johnson on the right, Heung-min Son on the left, and down the middle, Dominic Solanke. Once they start to amalgamate and work together and get it done, I feel like this will be one of the most dangerous front threes in the Premier League. All established Premier League players, all play a lot of pace and can be really incisive in the final third. But I think that was the key word, the thing that was missing against Leicester: incisiveness, pace, and directness in the final third. Too much fluffing around with it, not enough key opportunities created, not enough big opportunities created. There's a lot of half chances and a lot of half opportunities and a lot of possession attacking football, but not enough clear-cut opportunities for me. So that needs to be the difference this weekend, whether it be coming from midfield, coming from the wide areas, or with the big three up top. They've got to create more clear-cut opportunities, and I expect them to do that at home, especially in front of that Tottenham Hotspur stadium crowd. They'll get right behind this side. Everton were equally as awful, probably the worst team in the Premier League on the weekend. It sort of reinforced my belief that they will be going down this season. The squad is simply not good enough, especially with Amadou Onana not in the centre of the park. And I feel like that was the key problem for Everton. Down the core, down the spine of this team, had a lot of passengers in this game. Abdul Doucouré, Idrissa Gana Gueye, Tarkowski, all three big names, key players that were nowhere near their best last weekend, and Brighton tore them to pieces. The ability to go from one end to the other for Brighton was way too easy, and Everton were just wasteful and key moments and didn't create enough for me. There is not enough chance creation, not enough opportunity for this side to actually take it to any opposition, and I feel like Tottenham would just work them into the ground on the weekend. I don't care how many defenders you put behind the ball, this Everton team will eventually fatigue because of how quick Tottenham play and the willingness to throw continual numbers forward. I feel like despite all Everton will try and do, Tottenham will just get a run on. Timo Benham was fantastic last weekend with, I think, 9 tackles, the most amongst any top 5 leagues. So that was impressive from him. But he was the only shining star in that team. It seems like a really, really bad team this season. And I think Tottenham get it done here. I've gone with a 3-0 Tottenham Hotspur win. They get their season back on track with a massive win at home versus a really struggling Everton side. We stay in London for the next game, another all-London affair on the menu this weekend, Crystal Palace and West Ham United. Palace have had a difficult week, obviously that loss to Brentford 2-1 with Eberechi Eze's goal ruled out wrongly, with the referee actually going to Eze at full time and apologising he blew the whistle too early, which being a fantastic goal of the season type contender early on there. And then you find out the news that the here we go for Joachim Andersen leaving the club as well. Mark Gahey has had another proposal sent in by Newcastle United as well. So a little bit rocky here at the current point in time for Crystal Palace. And they might need time to settle down this season and really work out who's going to be at the club and who's playing for them. It was a solid performance against Brentford, but far from fantastic. I liked Archie Kamada in the final third, Jean-Philippe Mateta as well. They both were trying really hard, but just weren't quite connecting on that sort of wavelength, telepathic level that Michael Elise was having with Jean-Philippe Mateta as well. So that might take time to flourish, but there's obviously signs there. They played a bit of football than Brentford. They had some big opportunities. They just didn't make it count at key moments in time, and I feel like that'll be important for Crystal Palace versus West Ham here. I expect West Ham to sit in once again, play that really pragmatic style of football, and absorb a lot of pressure. Can they do it at Selhurst Park where it gets quite loud? It gets the crowd gets right behind the team. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, West Ham have the better team on paper, the more settled team. You'd think Nicholas Fulker and Tadiba, I think, should come in from the start. I expect them to, after a really disappointing performance versus Villa, where they didn't really show the best of what we can see from West Ham. It was a real old school type performance with Souček being a key player, not seeing the best of Jared Bowen, not seeing the best of Mohamed Kudus. And I think they need to start changing their way of football to be more front-footed. I feel like this is a great opportunity here with Crystal Palace a little bit all over the place. Gahey might be leaving. Joachim Andersen has left the club. Still trying to work out how this all links up in the final third. You've got to get at Palace and got to get them at them early. I think for West Ham, be clinical when you get your chances, and if you get the early goal, we'll allow you to free up and play your style of football. But if Palace get the opening goal, you get the crowd to get behind, and they'll lift, they'll keep driving forward, and you know how good Oliver Glasner's side can be once they get on the score sheet. So it's going to be a matter of who can score first in this game. I've got West Ham just nicking at 2-1. I think they've got more of the quality. They're more of a settled squad now over the last week or so, and I think they'll get the job done and get back in the winner's circle in match day 2 here. We go to the South Coast for our next game. Southampton host Nottingham Forest, which could turn out to be a relegation six-pointer come the end of the season. Big chance for Southampton last time out at Newcastle, down to 10 men for over an hour of the game. They just couldn't find a way to get a goal, and then end up conceding a really, really poor goal as well, playing out from the back. But if you watch the Championship and you follow Southampton, you know that's the style of football they play. They concede a lot of chances. We saw they conceded a bulk of goals in the Championship last season, but that's the way Russell Martin has set his side up. They want to play out from the back. They want to be a bit more expansive, and you saw the effects it can have. They had a lot of chances versus Newcastle, but were unable to find a real piece of elite level quality to break the side apart and create a massive opportunity. It was a lot of half chances, a lot of nearly chances. It was a really impressive performance out from midfield. The likes of Aribo, Smallbone, and Downs, and they really were fantastic, and they were probably, for me, the best players on the pitch, but they don't have that quality to break apart a Premier League level back line. So the question is, who can stand up in that midfield, or will someone else stand up? Can Adam Armstrong create for himself? Can there be more created from wide areas with those wing backs? Walker Peters, a big one who has a lot of potential, you think, to go and be a really creative wing back. And then for me, how does the back five fare in this game here? We know Nottingham Forest likes to play at pace. They were really, really attacking in that first game. How do they fare with a team that actually attacks them? Because Newcastle barely put a glove on Southampton due to playing with 10 men and into sitting deep. So we haven't seen how the Southampton team is going to deal with teams actually going at them. So that'll be a really interesting watch in this one here. Looking at Forest, they were very good versus Bournemouth, but without getting the 3 points. Probably over the course of the game, had the bigger and better chances, but didn't get over the line. I was impressed, though. It was more attacking football, and I was really impressed to see what they were doing in midfield. Gibbs White, fantastic. Despite it being an awful injury, obviously coming in the early moments of the game there to Danilo, it was really good to see Ryan Yates introduced. I feel like he is their best midfielder in terms of going both ways, cleaning up defensively, breaking the game up, and then getting Forest going forward. And I keep continuing to say, and I'll continue to say, with the players they've got, they need to play with pace. They need to get at teams and counter-press teams and counter-attack teams. Alanga, Hudson-Odoi, Tayo Wanyu, and he plays Chris, but they feed off his counter-attacking chance, and that's when they look at their best. So with a Southampton side that likes to play out from the back and is a bit more expansive, I feel like this will fit Nottingham Forest to a T. I can see them being really, really impressive in this game. Once again, a big shout out to Marilla and Bolly as well. They were fantastic versus Bournemouth and shut down a lot of those Bournemouth attacks. And I feel like in this game here, it'll be tight through major periods, but Forest quality in the final third will get them over the line. I've got Forest nicking this game 2-1 away at Southampton. Fulham and Leicester is our next game. And it was a tough first match day for Fulham. They played really well in key periods versus Manchester United, but were unable to really do enough in the final third, overdoing it, misplacing passes, missing key opportunities. They just went at their clinical best in the final third. And I feel like to get something out of this game here at home, you feel like you need to see more of ESR. You need to see more of Rodrigo and Muniz as well. Both very quiet in this game here. It was a lot more of a Dharma Traore and the midfield creativity for Andreas Pereira and Sasa Lucic. I feel like you need to get these other players involved. I think if Emil Smith-Rowe and Muniz see more of the ball, Fulham look like a better team and they take more chances. I feel like that is the key for me and probably the key throughout this season. They're both fantastically skilled players. We saw how Muniz went from that 8-8 run towards the end of last season. You need him at that best yet again for Fulham to be really, really killing it this season. With that being said, though, if we look at the fullbacks once again, to be really, really important. Robertson and Tete were fantastic versus Manchester United. And you feel like the way Leicester play their football, those will be really, really important going forward and creating chances for Fulham going the other way. So keep an eye on that little match up there in the wide areas. For Leicester, fantastic result. Match day 1 versus Tottenham. You'll take a point there. Yes, again, Jamie Vardy, the hero. Classic shithouse from the centre forward, but he got the job done. But my question is going to be throughout the whole season, who else is going to stand up outside of Jamie Vardy? I was impressed with Buonanotte as well, and a fantastic assist from Fasawu. He looked really, really good in this game as well, but can others stand up around to help this team propel it forward? Because outside of that, there's not much of creative quality in this team, and I feel like they're going for a more of a pragmatic approach. Saying that, they played on the front foot. They took the game to Tottenham when they had the opportunity in match day 1. It'll be interesting to see how they match up here versus a Fulham side that is slightly better in terms of quality, but they won't be afraid of a Fulham side. So it'll be really interesting to see how Leicester approach this game here. That all being said, though, I think the quality of Fulham will be too much in this game here. I've got them winning this game in a tight 2-1 game. Like likes of Muniz and Emil Smith-Rowe, Andreas Pereira will just click into gear this game here, and they'll get a really big win for me. Manchester City and Ipswich is our next game. And Manchester City, well, they're fantastic in the opening match day. We know City in the last few years have been slow starters and sort of slowly kick into gear, but they looked in top form from match day one. Chelsea were okay. They were really solid in periods. They took the game to City, but boy, did City look good. Erling Haaland alongside Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne, the stars of the team all stood up. They all looked ready and raring to go. And I said it in the podcast, it looked like a bunch of bulldogs. They were just chomping at the bit and wanted to be aggressive from minute one, and they were that. They were fantastic. And Savio, I've talked about him a lot last season and was really impressed with the move when coming across. And boy, was he fantastic in match day one. People were already comparing him to Riyad Mahrez, and we know how good Riyad Mahrez was. And I feel like in this game here, yet again, he will tear Ipswich to shreds. Ipswich, they took it to Liverpool. They were impressive to start the game off. Greaves and Wolf Eden at the back were fantastic. But with all that being said, they didn't really create much of a chance at all. And that was Liverpool really in first gear in that first half. And all it took was a 5 to 10 minutes of great Liverpool football, and Ipswich fell apart. So it'd be interesting to see the backbone of this Ipswich side. How does Kieran McKenna make his team line up? How do they shape up versus Manchester City? Because it could get ugly if they continue to try and play out from the back and really be expansive. I think if they're going to get anything on the counter-attack, Amari Hudson and Connor Chapman have to be much better. They were really unsighted for most of that game versus Liverpool, and those two are really key players, exciting players that can get things done in the final third, creating for themselves or creating for others. With that being said, City are too good for me. I've got them winning this game 5-0. I just think they're way too good. They're in fine form, and Ipswich, for me, just don't have that quality at this point in time to hold a side like City back. So, for me, City smashed them 5-0. The evening kickoff on Saturday is probably the game of the weekend. It is Aston Villa hosting Arsenal, and this has turned into a mini rivalry across the last season and a bit. Since Unai Emery has come back to the Premier League and has been at Villa Park, Aston Villa has been a bit of a bogey team for Arsenal. Mikel Arteta has not cracked the code to beat Unai Emery, and I think it might be very similar yet again here. Villa were not at their best, but solid in the opening match day versus West Ham. A tricky fixture, but they got the job done. Ollie Watkins looked a little bit rusty. You expect him to be much better in this game here. I loved what Morgan Rogers did as well, and that midfield looks very solid with Amadou Onana in there as well now. Ian Maatson might get the start. I think he'll be really pivotal if he gets a start as well. But I feel like Aston Villa have just got that edge over Arsenal right now. Obviously did the double over them last season, including that famous Christmas win where they beat Arsenal under the lights. And I feel like it'll be a very similar story. I think Unai Emery has got his counter-pressing and his ability to sit in and absorb pressure spot on versus Arsenal. It was a real flaw in their game that we saw throughout the season in key games when teams would sit back like Fulham, Aston Villa did, and then force Arsenal to play the ball sideways and get into the wide areas. It wouldn't work because Arsenal are so reliant on those wide players cutting in and scoring from that chance. But when you close down those spaces and force the ball to whip into the box or shots from outside the box, Arsenal look really, really blunt in the final third. And I feel like Aston Villa will employ that strategy yet again to try and beat Arsenal this game here, and I think it'll work. I really like the style that Aston Villa play. I think Unai Emery has got it down pat, and I feel like Morgan Rogers and if Ian Maatson start, that left-hand side for me will be the difference maker, the X factor in this game here. I really like what Morgan Rogers has done since he landed in the Premier League from the Championship just after January last season. He's been really, really impressive. Unai Emery's preferred him as the season came to an end last time around. He started him on the weekend as well versus West Ham. He was really, really good, really smart in the ball. Operates in really different areas that makes defences have to reshuffle and adjust themselves. He picks up spaces between the midfield and the back line and causes problems for teams. I feel like Arsenal might have to be shifted all about with it. If Ian Maatson starts up and down that left back position, Morgan Rogers coming in narrow, then going in, spinning in behind, dropping in to pick the ball up, he's going to cause problems. I feel like that left-hand side for me might be the key to victory here for Aston Villa with their creativity, their smarts, and their fluidity in positioning. I think that's what will get the better of Arsenal. Looking at Arsenal, impressive result, 2-0 over Wolves, but it wasn't anywhere near their best performance, mate, and I was not really impressed at all. It was Bukayo Saka, and that was about it. I think if Aston Villa can shut down Bukayo Saka, this team looked really, really blunt in the opening match week. Yes, we know they'll get better, but if there's any chance to get Arsenal, I feel like it's right now, especially for Aston Villa, who've had a history of getting the better of them. You need more from the midfield. Thomas Partey, Martin Odegaard, and Declan Rice were really poor, probably 5 out of 10s at best on the weekend. There's not much else really created. They had problems playing up from the back at times with Wolves employing that counter press with Gary O'Neill. So there's a real ability to get out of Arsenal. I think sitting in, absorbing some pressure, sacrificing and playing a little bit more without the ball to actually try and get at Arsenal is the key for Aston Villa. Employ that style of football, which he did last season. How Ollie Watkins got that goal at Arsenal at the Emirates, sit in deep and swing the counter-attack and use your pace and use your creativity to get goals in front of goal. And I feel like for Aston Villa, be clinical as well. You might not get many opportunities, but you've got to take them if you're going to beat this Arsenal side. I feel like at Villa Park with the crowd right behind them, I've got Villa winning this one. I've got them winning at 2-1. It's going to be a tight game. I feel like right now, Unai Emery has got the number over Mikel Arteta, and it'll carry over once again here with Villa winning this game 2-1. The first of our Sunday fixtures takes us to the South Coast as Bournemouth host Newcastle United. Both teams really hit and miss in their opening match day. Starting with Bournemouth, you'll take a 1-1 draw away at Nottingham Forest. There were signs there of things clicking, but without a focal number 9, Lifeline and Dominic Solanke hasn't started that great. You could tell they're really missing that central option. They've done that at times last season, but you know how good Dominic Solanke is and you know how the system sort of works around a central focal number 9. Obviously, Ivan Leeson has come across, but I don't expect him to start in this game here. It'd be a really quick turnaround if so. So you'd expect Antoine Semenyo once again down the middle, who had a fantastic game and got that really pivotal goal to give Bournemouth the point. But it still feels like without a focal number 9, you're really not going to see the best of Bournemouth. I feel like they'll struggle in this game here. Newcastle, we didn't see the best of them either, going down to 10 men really early after that really idiotic moment for Fabian Schär. And they're going to be vulnerable because they're going to have to rotate a little bit around the back there. But I expect the midfield in this game here for Newcastle to be the difference. You know, Bournemouth midfield, I think they look at their best when Christie and Cook are in there. But it feels like young Scott is going to be the one playing alongside Cook to start the season off. If Bournemouth go with Cook and Christie, it could be a different story, but I feel like this midfield of Longstaff, Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton will just be overpowering for the Bournemouth side. Really strong, really powerful, aerobic runners and physical players that will overrun the Bournemouth midfield and get overdone over time, and chance after chance after chance. I think Newcastle will eventually break away and get a goal in this game. You know, I feel like Gordon Isak, we didn't see much of them on the weekend because of the way Newcastle had to play. I feel like this is the game where they stamp their authority and they get a few goals and some really creative football going in the final third. I think it's going to be tough for Bournemouth. It's obviously a tough place to play, a really tight pitch, a tight ground of vitality. But if Newcastle get off to a good start and get control of the tempo of the game and own the middle of the park, I can see them running away with this result here. I've got Newcastle winning the game 2-0. Bournemouth will make it tough for them. On Don Ariola, we know he can make it tough, but Eddie Howe side will get it done for me. Our penultimate game for the match week sees Wolves take on Chelsea. A really big game, this one here for both sides. Wolves actually impressed me a lot for match day 1. Weren't even that great in the opening 15-20 minutes, but grew as the game went on. And I'm so impressed with the way Gary O'Neill sets up these teams that really lack a lot of talent and quality, but defend so well and workmanlike so well, and they look good going forward because of the way they defend. They got at Arsenal, they pressed them hard at the pitch, and from the 45th minute to around the 70-minute mark when Saka made it 2-0, Wolves got the team that were going to go and score the goal. They're really getting at Arsenal. They caused a lot of problems for Arsenal playing out from the back, and if you have a little bit of miscommunication or you lack that connection, Wolves can get the better of you, and I feel like that's where they can get at Chelsea here. A team with a lot of new faces, trying to get their system put together under Enzo Maresca, and I feel like they're gettable here. I think for Wolves, if you get Bellegarde and you get João Gomez playing a little bit better, you get Matheus Cunha starting up top, this is a real danger game for Chelsea. I think Wolves are really, really well set up. I like the way they operated under Arsenal, pressing up the pitch, playing with energy. Then once you win that ball back, willing to spread the game, use the width, get Hwang Hee-chan in behind, and also Gomez as well, getting in behind, stretching the defences, And then hopefully Matas Cunha is available to go from the start because we know how talented he is in front of goal. He can score goals in clumps and can really get a roll on. So I think for Wolves, it's really important to get out to a really, really quick start. Get at Chelsea, press them high, make them uncomfortable. That Molineux crowd can get up and about. It can be a really tough place to play. So stamp your authority early, get in those early challenges and get on the front foot. For Chelsea, they were really good in periods versus Man City, but it was a real Chelsea-type performance. It was patchy. In moments they were really, really good. Moments they were really, really poor. I think the balance of the team looks a little bit off right now. A lot of new faces, a new philosophy. It's about grinding out results early in this season. I think Wolves probably the worst opposition you could possibly have because Wolves will look for any flaws. Gary Neville likes to look for flaws and really tries to expose that opposition team. I feel like if they're not at the races from minute one, it could really get away from Chelsea here. So it's all about being compact, being smart in the ball, control the pace, control the possession, and grow into the game here for your Chelsea. And then make the moments count. You need more from Nkunku, you need more from Palmer, you need more from Jackson, Enzo, Fernandez as well. All four of them really had average games at best, poor at best, invisible at best. It was more the deep-lying players and the defence that are impressive for me. So we need more from these front guys. Can they do enough? Can they create enough? Can they get involved enough? Because we know how good Wolves are without the ball. These guys will struggle if they're not at the races from minute one. So it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a real tripping hazard here for Chelsea. I feel like as such, I'm going with a 1-1 result. I think Wolves can really compete hard at home as well. It's going to be a tough game for Chelsea. And with all the off-field drama going on, I see it being a really tough game for them. So going with a 1-1 draw with Chelsea and Wolves here. Our final game is Arne Slot make his debut at Anfield in the Premier League as Brentford come to town. A very, very exciting game, this one here. I want to see how Arne Slot develops his Liverpool side. They were quiet, subpar, poor. All sort of words you can associate with Liverpool in the first half versus Ipswich. But they came out second half and you can see what Arne Slot was trying to implement. One-touch style of football, playing down the corridor, playing through the middle of the pitch. Ryan Gravenberch, fantastic. Alexis McAllister, fantastic. Mohamed Salah, Luis Diaz grew into the game as they went on as well. And Andy Robertson playing this new role, coming more central, receiving off Virgil van Dijk. We've seen the footage coming behind the centre-back and trying to play in that narrow part of the park, playing the one-touch passes and getting past Ipswich at will. They defended very similar to how Jurgen Klopp would have set up his side, getting at the teams, pressing when they need to, but keeping a really high line and getting at the opposition side. But what was really intriguing is how they've changed their way going forward. I feel like it could get the better of Brentford here, and if Brentford aren't careful with the way they protect the middle of the park, Liverpool could walk that ball through and really cause problems. I think Dominic Szoboszlai is in for a massive game here. If he can get free, if he can get ability to get the balls into the box and get in those sort of spaces, the half spaces between the centre halves and the deep line midfielders, he could have a field day for me. I still feel like that Brentford midfield, it's a workman-like midfield, but it isn't much quality and isn't good enough for me. We saw Crystal Palace that time walk it through that Brentford midfield, so they are vulnerable there. For them, they come off a fantastic win versus Crystal Palace. We saw they did that, though. It was counter-attacking football and it was taking your chances. They were really good at going from one end of the pitch to the other. Proper old-school Brentford style of football, right? Real impressive from Pinnock and Ayer and Collins as well, and Visser and Burma and Sharda. We saw the start of the new era up top and it was really, really impressive, especially from Visser and Burma. Counter-attacking at their best, clinical at their best, and they're going to need to be at that times 10 versus Liverpool, I think. Going to be a game where you're going to have to take the chance when it comes to you early in the game. If Liverpool are slightly slow to start the game off yet again, got to take some chances, got to get 1 or 2-0 up, because this Liverpool side, we saw once they click in a gear, once they get that one-touch football going, once they start playing to the lines and play to the middle of the park, they're almost unstoppable. I think Trent Alexander-Arnold, Alexis McAllister, Dominic Szoboszlai, and Mo Salah, these are the guys that could break this game apart for me, especially if Brentford try and be that real deep-lying team that compacts the middle of the park and force you to create from wide areas, which we know they've done in the past. For that Liverpool, though, too much talent, too much quality, they'll get over the line in the end. Got them winning this game 3-0, doing it quite comfortably. I think the Arne Slot era is truly here, and Liverpool are going to cook this season. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That brings my predictions for match week 2 of the Premier League to an end. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. I've been bold, given Aston Villa win versus Arsenal. Got Wolves getting a point versus Chelsea. I think Liverpool get the job once again done versus a Brentford side. Also got Manchester United winning as well. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. A few bold predictions in there to say the least. What's your favourite game from the weekend? What's your game to watch? And how do you think all the results will go this weekend? Let me know that in the comment section down below. Please make sure if you enjoyed the video, guys, like the video, subscribe to the Players Zone channel for podcast reaction content, prediction videos like these. It's all sitting here in the channel, and press that post notification bell so you know we upload more videos here on the channel. With that being said, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the upcoming weekend's action from the Premier League, and I'll see you guys in the video very, very soon. Till next time, guys. See you later.